to test or not to test? That is the question. Is that the question that you're often asking yourself? Okay, like I'm homeschooling. When should I be testing? Should I be testing? Should I be testing more? Is there enough testing? It can be really hard, especially if you're coming out of like a school system. If you've been raised in the school system and your children have been there and you're bringing home, like all of a sudden, your brain can go into overdrive. And I get it. I'm a trained teacher. I have taught for years. I have taught in a variety of settings. I'm homeschooling now and my brain still kicks into, oh, should I be testing? When should I be testing? Should I be assessing? What should I be doing? Are you starting to wonder? Well, that's what I want to look at today, like when we should be assessing or testing in homeschooling. Hi, and welcome to Learning Life. There are no tests here today. We're just going to talk a little bit about tests and about assessment because, when we are homeschooling, we want to do something that's a little bit different, to traditional schooling. In that though, we want to be different, but, everyone's talking about grades and what we're doing and, you're like, what should I be doing? What's the right way? What's the right way? Let me just say, it's what works for you. And homeschooling, you might have been doing it for years and can still think these questions, or you might be new and, think of these questions. This is why I love to bring videos like this. So check out my other homeschooling ones. There is a whole playlist of them, and maybe it'll answer some of the questions that you have. And thank you for watching, for your likes and for your subscribes and for your comments. So, we know that schools rely on quizzes and tests, right? Pop quiz! Or, we've got a test at the end of this unit. And I still remember one student that I was tutoring, and on Monday she's busy telling me, well, we're having a test on Friday. And oh, what have you, we haven't learned it yet, but the test is on the schedule. And I get it. Schools do rely on quizzes and tests for grading. There's other projects, written assignments like essays. There's the milestones or the standardized tests at the end of the year. Totally get it. Schools need to do it. They're trying to see where students are at. But do we have to be doing it like that? Do we have to focus solely on grades? Let's take a breath about that to release ourselves from grades. And I get it. Older students, we start thinking, well, if they're going to go to college, we need to be able to grade. Look, there are so many different ways that we can be doing this. And as I said, you have to do and find the way that works for you. And maybe that is more informal, creative sort of assessments, or you do feel comfortable in providing quizzes and tests. And so you have to do what works for you. Main reasons to assess. So there really are, a few main reasons why we want to assess. We want to see that our kids are learning, right? We want to see where they are at. We're checking their progress, making sure that everything is okay because we don't want to be wasting our time. We want to see if they are up to standard. Are they sort of matching where their peers are and where they should be at, grade-wise? Do we want to see if they're falling behind? And I know that can sometimes really be a big concern of homeschoolers. I don't want them to fall behind. So we are assessing for that. Or for me, I'm looking for strengths and weaknesses or holes that need to be filled. So really, those are just 4 main reasons that we do want to assess, but without getting bogged down. When using curriculum. If you are using a curriculum, especially for upper grades, you're going to find that most often they have quizzes and the tests in there for you. And this is great. If you are following grades, and this is an easy and helpful tool. You've done this amount of work, here's the quiz. You've done this amount of work, here's the test. And it allows you to see what they are doing. And so if that is an easy and helpful tool for you, then that's what you should be doing. Use the tests and the quizzes that the curriculum have because that's how it's been written. Other ways to assess. Okay, if you are using curriculum but you don't want to use the tests, or maybe you're not using curriculum, there are some other just simple, easy, more informal ways to be assessing. To me, the number one is just having your children talk to you, tell you all about what they're learning. Oh, they've just finished this book. Tell me about it. or you've just studied like this part of history. Why don't you tell me? Can you tell me 5 things that were fascinating to you? When you're doing things like this, you're actually going to see how much they have learned and taken in without maybe some of that stress of like a written test or like trying to guess like on a multiple choice. Multiple choice stresses me more out than just being able to tell you something. And it make them the teacher say, okay, we've been learning about this. Now I want you to be the teacher. Teach me all about it and sit back and let them teach you. You pretty quickly see the areas that they have, held onto. And if they're missing out quite a bit of, material, then you're like, oh, maybe I do need to go back over and like cover that again. Open book tests are also wonderful. Some people think it's like a cheater's way. Oh, that's just yes, the information is there, but what you are assessing, can they process like where they saw that information, where they've learned it, and come back, to fill in like those answers. I think open book tests are wonderful. It helps to see the skill of like knowing and processing and synthesizing. You can do creative projects, have fun with that, like around the house. Or if you want something that's a little bit more formal, make your own tests. You can do that. 5 questions, 3 questions, whatever it is, true or false, multiple choice, fill in the blank. There are so many different things that you can be doing. Standardized tests. Now, I'm not a huge fan of them. I will be straight out and say that, because where I'm not a huge fan of it is the pressure and the stress that it puts on a lot of our children. But I will say I do find it to be a helpful tool. Okay, yes, even I have had my daughter sit a standardized test just recently. I wanted to see where they were at. We're unschooling, we're eclectic schooling, we're only following a math curriculum. Everything else we've been learning in a more organic way. But like my educator's brain was still like, what do they know? Like I was just legitimately curious, and their best friends were going to be doing it. So like they all sat it together, and I was really like beautifully surprised at just how much that they had learned without this formal stuff of, knowing about capitals and spelling and punctuation, just how much they had picked up, like just through reading and all of our discussions and everything like that. Now, standardized tests, most schools will do them like every year. And did you know you can actually opt children out of having to do them? But, every state does have a requirement for times when they must be done. So, for example, here in Georgia, the end of 3rd, 6th, and 9th grade, your children should be doing one of the nationally recognized standardized tests. And so things like the ITBS, the CAT, or the Stanford 10, there's several of them, but those really are like 3 main ones. So know your state's requirements. You might have to send your results in to the state board. We don't in Georgia. I just, you hold it and keep it as a record. Maybe if you're then putting them into schools or, even to build up for colleges later, though a lot of them don't even really look at it, but that's our requirement, so we follow them. Now, for me, standardized tests are great in just showing their strengths, but also, maybe there's a few holes that we need to go over. I don't like to look at it going, well, yes, like so good. Look at, they're up at the top. And no, I just use it as a great tool for me as the home educator of, maybe we just need to work on these areas. So standardized tests can be good for that. But you know what? Don't do it if it's only going to be causing like anxiety for your children. We don't want that. It's part of the way we're at home. We want it to be fun. Other tests and assessments. So maybe you don't want to do a standardized test. Totally get it. But you are curious, like, where is my child at, like with reading or with a few other things? Well, there are many different like free or inexpensive tests and assessments that you can find online. I will put the link to some below and also on my website. Like Scholastic has some great reading assessments that are very inexpensive that you can go through and go, yeah, that's where my child is at. Great. They're on grade level. There are other ones that help, assess with math and all of that. Again, free or inexpensive, check the list below. My thoughts on when. Okay, these are my thoughts, but this also does come from years of working with families and with homeschoolers and kids in school and tutoring. Okay. I would say the main point to do it, if you're thinking like a bigger thing, especially like a standardized test or assessing where they're at, is when it brings you peace. If you are feeling anxiety about knowing where they're at or getting worried that they're falling behind, assess. Okay? Assess, find out where they are. Are they meeting like what the state is saying, by the end of second grade, they should know this. By the end of third grade, they should know this. Those are good lists to have. And, you can work through it and go, oh, have they covered these skills? I also think it is really good to do it when you have concerns that maybe your child has fallen behind or, is struggling like with an area, like let's say for reading. You just think, I really don't think my child is reading properly. Then maybe ask somebody else to help you assess. Reach out to a friend who maybe is a teacher or who does things like this. I've often helped like a number of my friends because I want them to feel like at peace about it. And I know as parents, we can be like overthinking and like, have I done the right thing? Have I failed them? Did I totally miss something? And our children, can be very good at covering up if there is an issue. So definitely assess when you think that maybe there is an issue and also get somebody else to help you. Because even though like I have assessed a number of children, when it comes even to my own, I find myself sort of automatically in my brain, like correcting, and not hearing the right thing or maybe missing some things that they might have said wrong, like in a reading test. It's just because it's more natural. For some reason, it's so much easier for somebody else's child. But for my own, I sort of like it's weird. But so it can be helpful to have somebody do that for you. And again, whenever you feel like it, it's up to you. Make it informal. Informal assessment is a very good thing. It shows progression. And, your child doesn't even have to know that you're thinking in your brain, oh, this is like a sort of an informal assessment because I want to know where they're at. Tell me all about this. And then you just move on. Okay. So whenever you feel like. Now, this will always just have to bring you peace, okay? We don't want to strive and push ourselves and being like, well, I have to. Schools do this, so I have to. If that doesn't bring you peace, don't do it. But if following, doing regular testing and assessments brings you peace, then do it, okay? And I do want to finish off by just saying one thing, that if you are homeschooling and you feel that your child does maybe have a learning disability like dyslexia, ADHD, and you're just not sure, you are still eligible to have testing done through the school system. So speak to your pediatrician about that and get some testing so that it can bring you peace of mind. This doesn't change who your child is, but it might help you in your homeschooling journey going, oh, I actually need to sort of like correct our path a little bit to make it better for them and then also like for you. So thank you so much for watching today. I'm not going to ask you to answer any questions as a test on what I just said. No, I'm not the biggest fan of formal testing, but I do love assessing and just seeing. Again, it just brings peace of mind. But if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. And hey, if you like these videos and you want to be part of bringing these out to the Learning Life community, you can do that by being a champion, and you can check that out at patreon.com. Or don't forget my website where I will also have those links for the assessments, and I have other resources there for you as well. Check out my website, learningthis.life.